The first thing I noticed about the woman at table 12 was not the wheelchair. It was the way she stared down my three best friends, like she was deciding which one of them would look best mounted over a fireplace. That should have been my warning. I was 32 years old enough to know that when your friends say, just wear something decent and trust us, you should absolutely not trust them. My name is Nolan Pierce, and at the time, my life was mostly predictable. Civil engineer, one-bedroom apartment, too much takeout, and a talent for turning serious relationships into polite exits. My friends called it being emotionally unavailable. I called it learning from experience. Either way, that Friday night I walked into Bellwether, a downtown restaurant with low lights and expensive bread, expecting a casual blind date with a woman named Claire. That was all they told me. Claire's funny, my friend Marcus had said. She's smart, his wife Dana added. She's exactly your type, said Ben, which should have disqualified the whole operation because Ben once thought my type was any woman who owns a cardigan. What they did not say was that Claire Bennett used a wheelchair, and they definitely did not say they had brought an audience. Marcus, Dana, and Ben sat at the bar pretending not to watch me, which meant they were watching me with the subtlety of three raccoons caught in a pantry. Claire looked up as I approached. She had dark auburn hair tucked behind one ear, a green dress that made her eyes look sharper than they probably needed to be, and the calm expression of someone who had already survived worse than an awkward dinner reservation. "You must be Nolan," she said. "I was told I must be," I said, though I'm starting to suspect there was paperwork I wasn't allowed to read. Her mouth twitched. Good sign. I pulled out the chair across from her, sat down, then glanced toward the bar where my friends all suddenly became fascinated by their menus. Claire followed my gaze. "Ah," she said. "So they didn't tell you?" "No." "About the chair?" "No." She leaned back slightly. "And yet you still sat down." I was hungry. That made her laugh. Not a polite laugh, a real one. The kind that changed her whole face before she could stop it. I felt it in my chest, which annoyed me a little. She glanced at the breadbasket. "Well, if you're only here for the carbs, I should warn you I already claimed the good role." "That's aggressive for a first date." "Blind date," she corrected. "Ambush," I said. Her eyes flicked toward the bar again. "Fair." A server appeared with water and the kind of smile people use when they can sense drama and want to remain employable. I thanked her, then looked back at Claire. She was watching me carefully now. Not nervously, carefully. Like my reaction mattered, but not enough for her to beg for decency. That hit me harder than I expected. I'd been on bad dates before. Dates where women checked their phones under the table. Dates where we ran out of things to say before appetizers. Dates where I smiled through the slow death of chemistry. But I had never walked into a situation where the person across from me had been turned into a test. Not by me, by people who claimed to care about both of us. I leaned in a little and lowered my voice. "Before we go any further, I need to ask you something." Claire's expression cooled just a fraction. "There it is," she said softly. I hated that she expected it. "Do you want to stay here?" I asked. "Or do you want to make my friends regret every life choice that led to this moment?" She blinked. Then she smiled. Slowly, dangerously. "Nolan," she said, "that is the first intelligent question anyone has asked me all night." Behind us, Ben dropped his fork. I stood up. Claire raised an eyebrow. "Where are you going?" "To tell the hostess we're changing tables." "Why?" "Because if this is a date, they don't get front row seats." For the first time, something in her face softened in a way that was not amusement. It was quick, gone almost immediately, but I saw it. And I liked seeing it. Maybe too much. I went to the hostess stand, asked if they had another table somewhere quieter, and when I turned back, Marcus was halfway off his bar stool. "Nolan," he called, too loud. "Everything good?" I looked at him. "Perfect!" Dana's face went pale. Ben stared into his drink like it might offer legal advice. The hostess found us a small table near the back window, away from the bar, away from the performance. I didn't push Claire's chair, I didn't grab the handles. I simply walked beside her while she moved with practiced ease through the room. Halfway there, she said, "You passed." I looked down at her. Was there a quiz? There's always a quiz. That sounds exhausting. It is. We reached the new table. I pulled out my chair and sat first so she could choose her position without me hovering like a nervous valet. She noticed. Of course she did. You're unusually calm, she said. I'm faking. Convincingly. That's my entire personality. She laughed again, and this time I smiled before I could stop myself. The window beside us reflected the restaurant in softened gold. Couples leaning close, wine glasses catching light, rain beginning to bead against the glass. Claire took one of the menus and opened it. So, she said, what do you do when you're not being used in secret morality experiments? I design drainage systems. Her eyes widened. That is either very important or deeply boring. Both. On a good day, no one thinks about me at all. Every woman's dream. I also know where every pothole in the city is. Now you're flirting. I was hoping you'd notice. She looked at me over the top of the menu. There it was again. That charge in the air. Not pity, not politeness. Something warmer, sharper, and more dangerous. Claire Bennett was beautiful, yes, but not in the fragile way the setup had tried to frame her. She was beautiful, like a match struck in a dark room. And I realized, with a quiet internal curse, that I was already more interested in her than I had been in anyone in months. Maybe years. We ordered wine. She chose the mushroom ravioli after interrogating the server like a friendly district attorney. I ordered steak because I panicked under menu pressure. You're a steak on first date guy, she said. I contain multitudes. You contain mashed potatoes. Also true. For 20 minutes, we talked like the restaurant had narrowed around us. She told me she worked as a grant writer for a nonprofit that helped retrofit homes for people with disabilities. I told her my mother still mailed me coupons even though I lived 12 minutes away. Claire had been paralyzed 4 years earlier after a cycling accident on a wet road. She said it plainly, not like a confession, not like bait. I don't mind questions, she said, cutting into her ravioli. I mind people acting like my spine is haunted. I nearly choked on my wine. She grinned. Too dark? No, accurate, unexpected, slightly dangerous. Good. I like being at least two of those. I wanted to ask 100 things, but not the way strangers ask when they want the dramatic version of your life. I wanted to know whether she liked mornings, what songs embarrassed her, who made her feel safe enough to be quiet. That realization scared me more than the setup had. Then my phone buzzed on the table. A text from Marcus lit up the screen. Don't overdo it, man. We just wanted to see if you'd be decent. Claire saw it before I could turn the phone over. Her face changed. Not hurt exactly, worse. Disappointed. She set her fork down with care. Decent, she repeated. I picked up the phone, stood, and looked across the restaurant at the bar. All three of them froze. Claire's voice came from behind me, low and steady. Nolan, don't make a scene for me. I turned back to her. I'm not, I said. I'm making one for myself. And then I walked toward my friends while the entire restaurant seemed to hold its breath. Marcus stood when he saw me coming. That was his first mistake. His second was trying to smile. Nolan, he said, palms half raised, before you get mad, I'm already mad. Dana looked past me toward Claire. We didn't mean anything cruel. That's usually what people say right after doing something cruel. Ben rubbed the back of his neck. Come on, man, we just thought, you can be judgmental. I stared at him. Judgmental? I said. Because I didn't want to date your cousin's friend who brought her ferret to brunch? That ferret had anxiety. So did I. Dana lowered her voice. Claire is amazing. We knew if we told you beforehand, you might overthink it. No, I said. You were afraid I'd say no and then you'd get to decide what kind of person I was without risking anything yourselves. They went quiet. Good. I wasn't yelling. Somehow that made it worse. I could feel people nearby pretending not to listen. Forks paused halfway to mouths. Marcus swallowed. We were trying to help. Who? I asked. Me? Claire? Or your own guilt? Dana flinched. I looked back across the restaurant. Claire sat by the window, hands folded near her wine glass, her face unreadable. But her eyes were on me, not helpless, not embarrassed, watching, waiting to see whether I understood the difference between defending her and using her as a reason to perform. I turned back to my friends. You invited her here without telling me the truth. You invited me here without telling me the truth. Then you sat at the bar to observe my reaction like I was a lab rat with a dinner reservation. Ben opened his mouth. I pointed at him. Do not make a joke. He closed it. I like her, I said. The words came out before I planned them, plain and sharp. All three of them blinked. I kept going because apparently my mouth had chosen honesty and abandoned me there. I liked her before I knew what she did for work. I liked her before dinner came. I liked her before Marcus sent me that stupid text. And if I ruin this, it'll be because I'm an idiot, not because you gave me some secret character exam. Dana's eyes softened. Nolan? No. I shook my head. Apologize to her, not tonight if she doesn't want to hear it, but really apologize, and then go home. Marcus looked like he wanted to argue, but for once married life had taught him survival. He nodded. We're sorry, he said quietly. I'm not the one you owe. Then I walked away before I said something worse. When I reached the table, Claire was looking at me with an expression I could not read. I sat down. For 3 seconds, neither of us spoke. Then she picked up her wine and said, A ferret at brunch? I exhaled so hard it was almost a laugh. His name was Professor Nibbles. That sounds like a man with tenure. He bit a waiter. Academia is brutal. And just like that, the tightness in my chest loosened. I leaned back, studying her. Are you angry? At them, yes. She turned the stem of her glass between her fingers. At you? I'm deciding. That seems fair. You said you liked me. I froze. She did not. Her eyes stayed on mine, direct and bright, with a little challenge tucked into the corner of her mouth. I did, I said. Was that part of the speech, or did you mean it? I could have dodged, made a joke, hidden behind the steak, or the weather, or Professor Nibbles. Instead, I said, I meant it. Something shifted between us. The rain tapped softly against the window. The restaurant noise blurred around us until all I could hear was the small breath she took. Claire looked down first, but she was smiling. That was a good answer, she said. I have one every few years. Use them wisely. I'm trying. Her fingers rested near the edge of the table, not reaching, not inviting exactly, but close enough that I noticed the pale pink polish on her nails, the tiny scar along one knuckle, the way I wanted to touch her hand and was suddenly nervous like a teenager. She noticed that too. You're staring, she said. At your hand. Scandalous. I was thinking about holding it. Her smile faded into something softer. You ask? Always. She slid her hand halfway across the table. Then ask. My throat went dry. Claire, I said, can I hold your hand? Yes, Nolan. Her palm was warm, that was all. Just her hand in mine across a restaurant table while rain blurred the city lights. But I felt it everywhere. She glanced down at our joined hands. You're trembling a little. I'm not. You are. I design stormwater systems. My hands are sensitive to atmospheric pressure. Liar. Absolutely. She laughed, and her thumb brushed once across mine. That small movement did more damage to me than any kiss I'd had in the last 5 years. After dinner, I paid before she could argue. She argued anyway. I have a job, she said as we left the restaurant. I know. You interrogated a mushroom. I can pay for my own ravioli. I'm sure you can. Next time you can pay. She stopped just under the awning. The rain had slowed to mist, silver under the streetlights. Her wheelchair angled toward me, and the city moved around us in wet reflections and passing headlights. Next time? She asked. There was no teasing now, only the question. I stepped closer, close enough to smell her perfume, something clean and warm beneath the rain. If you want one, I said. Claire looked up at me. I had expected uncertainty, maybe caution. Instead, she looked pleased, almost smug. I might, she said, but I should warn you, I'm difficult. I gathered that from the ravioli negotiations. I also hate pity, performative kindness, and men who say they're not like other guys. I am exactly like other guys, except worse at parallel parking. Her grin returned. Tempting. A car splashed through a puddle nearby, and I shifted instinctively to block the spray. Some of it hit my coat. Claire arched a brow. Careful, that was almost gallant. I'll try to be more irritating. Please do, I was starting to worry. We waited while the valet brought cars for other diners. I had taken a rideshare, and Claire had driven herself in an adapted van parked half a block away. I'll walk with you, I said. She tilted her head. Will you? If that's okay. It is. Then, after a beat, but not because I need escorting. No, I said, because I don't want the date to be over yet. Her face changed again. That softness. This time she let me see it. Well, she said quietly, when you put it that way. So we moved together down the sidewalk slowly, not because she had to, but because neither of us seemed in a hurry. She told me about the worst first date she'd ever had. A man who spent 40 minutes describing his CrossFit injury, then asked if she still believed in love. What did you say? I asked. I said I believed in dessert. Wise. What about you? My worst first date? No, she said. Do you still believe in love? The question landed gently, but it landed deep. I looked at the wet pavement ahead of us. I don't know, I admitted. I think I believe in it for other people. Claire was quiet for a moment. Then she said, That's lonely. I laughed once, but there was no humor in it. Yeah. Her chair slowed. I stopped with her. Under the yellow glow of a street lamp, she looked at me like she had found a locked door and was deciding whether to knock. I believe in it, she said, but not the soft focus version. I believe love is what's left after life gets inconvenient. My chest tightened. And is it? I asked. She held my gaze. Sometimes. Her van was just ahead. Neither of us moved. I wanted to kiss her. The thought arrived fully formed and reckless. I wanted to bend down, taste rain on her mouth, and find out if that spark between us was real or just the strange magic of an ambush survived together. Claire's eyes dropped to my lips, then back up. Nolan, she said softly, you're staring again. At your mouth this time. Even more scandalous? I was thinking about kissing you. Her breath caught. Barely. But I heard it. You ask? She whispered. Always. She smiled. Then ask. So I asked. Claire Bennett, I said, my voice lower than I meant it to be, can I kiss you? Her answer was not immediate. She looked at me for one long second beneath that street lamp, rain misting in her hair, city light caught in her eyes. Then she said, Yes. I bent slowly, giving her every chance to change her mind. She didn't. Her hand rose to my coat, fingers curling in the lapel, and when my mouth met hers, the whole night went still. It was not a polite first date kiss. It started gently, careful around the edges, but then she made a small sound against my mouth and pulled me closer, and I forgot the restaurant, my friends, the rain, everything except the warmth of her lips, and the impossible fact that she wanted me there. When I straightened, I was useless. Claire, unfortunately, was not. Well, she said, smoothing my lapel, you're better at that than parallel parking, I hope. I laughed, breathless. I'm never parking again. Probably safest for the city. I wanted to kiss her again immediately, which seemed like a strong argument for restraint. Instead, I stepped back and tucked my hands into my coat pockets like they couldn't be trusted. Claire noticed. Very disciplined, she said. Barely. Her smile softened. Good. At her van, she transferred into the driver's seat with a practiced movement that was graceful because it belonged entirely to her. I didn't offer help. I stood close enough to be present, far enough not to hover. When she was settled, she looked at me through the open door. Text me when you get home, she said. I blinked. That's usually my line. I stole it. I contain multitudes. I grinned. You contain ravioli. Also true. Then she drove away and I stood on the sidewalk like an idiot until her taillights disappeared. I did text her when I got home. Me, home. No puddle fatalities. Claire, proud of you. Me, I may need supervision crossing streets in the future. Claire, that sounds like an excuse for a second date. Me, I was hoping you'd notice. Her reply took 3 minutes. Claire, Saturday, coffee, no friends, no experiments. Me, just us. Claire, just us. I stared at those 2 words longer than was reasonable. Saturday became coffee, which became a walk through the botanical conservatory because it was warm and accessible and she liked plants with dramatic personalities. She introduced me to a carnivorous pitcher plant and said, "This one reminds me of my aunt." I said, "Beautiful and quietly lethal?" Claire said, "Exactly, you're learning." We moved through rooms thick with green heat and the smell of damp soil. At one point, a little boy pointed at her chair and asked, "Is that fast?" His mother looked horrified. Claire leaned toward him and said, "Only when I'm escaping boring people." The boy's eyes went huge. Cool. When they left, I looked at her. You handled that better than most adults. Kids ask what they mean. Adults ask what they're afraid of meaning. That stayed with me. Our third date was tacos from a food truck eaten in my car during a thunderstorm. I had parked badly, naturally, and Claire rated the angle with professional severity. 2 out of 10. That feels harsh. You're taking up 1.5 spaces. I'm creating drainage opportunities. You're creating enemies. We laughed so hard I almost spilled salsa on my shirt. Then, somewhere between the second taco and the rain hammering on the windshield, the laughter faded. She was looking at me again with that door-unlocking expression. "What?" I asked. "You do this thing," she said. "What thing?" "You make jokes right before you might say something real." I opened my mouth, closed it. She smiled faintly. "See?" I looked through the windshield at the smeared red glow of traffic lights. I was engaged once. Claire went still, but not stiff. Her name was Lydia, I said. We were together 4 years. 3 months before the wedding, she told me she loved me, but she didn't want the life we were building. She said being with me felt like living inside a blueprint. Claire was quiet. I didn't ask enough questions, I admitted. I thought being reliable was the same as being present. After she left, I decided wanting too much from someone was dangerous. So I became convenient, easy to leave. The rain filled the silence. Then Claire reached across the console and took my hand. Not because I asked, because she chose to. "You don't feel convenient to me," she said. My throat tightened. No, no, you feel scared. Her thumb brushed mine, but not empty. I looked at her then, really looked, and something in me gave way. "I think about you all the time," I confessed. Her eyes warmed. "Good," she said. I laughed softly. "That's it? I'm enjoying my victory." "Your victory?" "Nolan, I wore earrings today specifically to destroy you and you didn't even mention them." I glanced at the small gold earrings brushing her neck. I noticed. "When?" "Immediately." "And said nothing?" "I was trying not to appear too easy." Claire leaned closer across the console. "How's that going?" "Terribly." Her gaze dropped to my mouth. This time she didn't make me ask. She caught my tie, tugged me toward her, and kissed me like she had been waiting since the conservatory. Like rain and tacos and old heartbreak had all led to that small, fogged-in car. I kissed her back carefully at first, then not carefully at all. When we broke apart, her forehead rested against mine. "I'm scared too," she whispered. That quiet confession undid me more than the kiss. "Of what?" Her fingers loosened on my tie but didn't let go. "Being someone's lesson, someone's proof they're kind, someone's inspiring story before they go back to wanting an easier life." I shut my eyes. "I don't want easy," I said. She gave a small, shaky laugh. "Everybody says that until the ramp is blocked or the elevator's broken or strangers stare." "Then let me say something else." I opened my eyes. "I want you. Not the idea of being good enough for you. Not the applause for staying. You, Claire, difficult, funny, lethal plant enthusiast, terrible ravioli negotiator. Excellent ravioli negotiator. Debatable." She smiled, but her eyes shone. You're dangerous, Nolan Pierce. I've been told my parking is a public menace. No. Her voice softened. I mean, I might believe you. I kissed her hand. Then I'll be careful with that. For 2 weeks we were careful, and not careful at all. We texted too late. We learned each other's coffee orders. She sent me photos of inaccessible building entrances with captions like, "Behold, architecture by goblins." I sent her pictures of storm drains until she threatened to block me. Marcus and Dana left a voicemail apologizing. Claire listened once, expression unreadable, then said, "They can buy me dinner and suffer through my thoughts on consent." Should I warn them? No. Remind me never to betray you. I shouldn't have to. You don't. She looked at me for a long moment and kissed my cheek. It felt like being trusted. Then, on the night everything changed, I invited her to my apartment and cooked dinner. Or attempted to. Claire arrived as the smoke alarm began screaming. She rolled into my kitchen, took one look at the pan and said, "Did the chicken confess to something?" "I was searing it. You were cremating it." I waved a dish towel under the alarm while she laughed so hard she had to wipe her eyes. We ordered Thai food instead. Later, on my couch, her chair beside us and our shoes abandoned near the coffee table, Claire leaned against me while we watched a movie neither of us followed. My arm rested around her shoulders. Her hand lay over my heart like she was testing whether it would run. It was the closest I had felt to anyone in years. Then she said, "My legs aren't the only thing that changed after the accident." I turned slightly. "You don't have to tell me." "I know." She looked up at me. "That's why I want to." I held still. Claire took a breath. "I was married," she said. And the room, warm and quiet a moment before, seemed to tilt beneath us. For one stupid second, I forgot how time worked. Was married. Past tense. Still, the words hit something old and insecure in me. Claire felt it. Of course she did. Her hand lifted from my chest. I caught it gently before she could pull away. "Hey," I said, "I'm listening." She studied my face. "You don't have to look that calm." "I'm not calm. I'm choosing not to be an idiot. That's growth. I'm trying to impress a woman." Her mouth curved, but the smile didn't last. "His name was Graham," she said. "We got married when I was 27. He was charming, ambitious, the kind of man who made restaurant reservations and remembered birthdays and looked very good in photos." I waited. Claire looked toward my dark TV screen, where our reflections sat close together on the couch. "After the accident, he tried at first. I'll give him that. He brought flowers, learned the hospital schedule, posted very tasteful updates online about my courage. I hated him already. Then rehab got long," she continued, "and messy. And I was angry, and grieving, and not inspirational in a photogenic way." Her voice thinned but didn't break. "One night I heard him on the phone in the hallway telling his brother he felt like his wife had died, but everyone expected him to be grateful I hadn't." I closed my eyes. "Nolan." I opened them. She was looking at me steadily, almost fiercely. "Don't pity me." "I'm not," I said. "I'm furious." "That's allowed." "Good." He left 6 months later. Technically, he said he needed space. Then he needed a trial separation. Then he needed the woman from his office who did yoga and didn't have medical bills. "Claire." "I know." She swallowed. "The divorce was final 2 years ago. I've dated since, badly, briefly, sometimes hilariously. The CrossFit philosopher." "Exactly." A real smile flickered. "But I didn't tell you because I didn't want to watch you calculate." "Calculate what?" "How much history I come with. How much effort. How much you'd have to prove you're not him." That one landed deep. I turned toward her fully. "I can't prove I'm not him in one night. No. And I don't want to spend whatever this is competing with a ghost who wore good suits and failed you." Her eyes shone. "So, what do you want?" she asked. I looked at our joined hands. "I want to earn the present tense," I said. "Not your whole future tonight. Not promises big enough to scare both of us. Just the right to keep showing up tomorrow." Claire's lips parted slightly. The apartment was quiet except for rain ticking against the window and the forgotten movie playing muted blue light over her face. Then she reached up and touched my jaw. You say things like that, she whispered, and then expect me to remain difficult. I like you difficult. You like the idea of me difficult. No. I leaned into her palm. I like you when you're teasing me. I like you when you're angry. I like you when you're scared. And tell me anyway. I like you when you make my kitchen smell like judgment. That was the chicken. The chicken was a victim. She laughed through the tears she refused to let fall. I bent closer, slow enough to ask without words. This time, she answered by pulling me down. The kiss was softer than the one in the car, deeper than the one in the rain. It carried less surprise and more choice. Her fingers slid into my hair. My hand settled at her waist, careful, then steadier when she leaned into me. When we broke apart, she rested her forehead against mine. I want tomorrow, she said. My chest hurt. Then you have it. The next morning, she texted me at 7:12. Claire, still want tomorrow? Me, already in it. Claire, good, because you're meeting my sister today. I sat up in bed. Me, that feels like a trap. Claire, it is. Wear something decent and trust me. Me? Absolutely not. Claire, coward. Her sister Wren was a criminal defense attorney with silver glasses and the smile of someone who had cross-examined grown men into apologizing to furniture. We met at a bookstore cafe. Claire looked entirely too pleased as Wren inspected me over her coffee. So, Wren said, you're the storm drain man. I prefer water management professional. Claire sipped her latte. He sends me drain photos. Wren's eyebrows rose. Unsolicited? I was excited about culvert restoration. That is not a defense, Wren said. Claire laughed, and under the table her hand found mine. Not hidden, not accidental. A clear, warm claim. I looked down at our linked fingers, then at her. She lifted one brow as if daring me to make too much of it. I absolutely made too much of it, Wren noticed. Her sharp expression softened by half a degree. After coffee, Claire and I wandered the bookstore aisles. She asked me to pull down a poetry collection from a high shelf, then accused me of showing off. I'm 6'1", I said. This is my only societal advantage. You also have nice hands. I nearly dropped the book. She smiled sweetly. What? You can stare at my mouth, but I can't compliment your hands? You can, I just need warning. Where's the fun in that? In the poetry aisle, with Wren safely lost in legal thrillers, Claire tugged me down by my scarf and kissed me. It was quick, smiling, and completely devastating. What was that for? I asked. For not running. I told you, I want tomorrow. Careful, she said softly. I may start wanting more than tomorrow. I brushed my thumb over her knuckles. Good. Her smile faded into something vulnerable. Don't say good unless you mean it. I mean it. And I did. That was the terrifying part. 2 nights later, Claire agreed to dinner with Marcus and Dana. Ben came too, carrying flowers and the haunted look of a man walking voluntarily into consequences. Claire chose the restaurant. Accessible entrance and spacious tables, excellent lighting for judgment. The apology was awkward at first. Marcus stumbled. Dana cried. Ben made one joke, saw Claire's face, and immediately apologized for that too. Then Claire set down her fork and said, You made me into a test. I'm a person. If you ever forget that again, I'll make you attend a 3-hour accessibility policy webinar and ask follow-up questions. Ben whispered, Fair. By dessert, the tension had loosened. Not vanished, but loosened. Claire let Marcus pay, which I considered an act of mercy. Outside, Dana hugged her carefully after asking first. Marcus shook Claire's hand like she was a judge. Ben bowed slightly. When they left, Claire looked up at me. That was exhausting. You were magnificent. I was restrained. I feared for them. You should have. We lingered beneath the restaurant awning, almost exactly where our first night had turned into something real. Claire grew quiet. What? I asked. She looked at the wet street. Graham called today. Every part of me went still. She glanced at me quickly. Not like that. He heard through someone that I was seeing a man. He said he wanted to talk. Closure, apparently. I chose my words with care. Do you want to? No. Her answer came fast, then softer. But part of me wants him to see I'm not where he left me. I understood that more than I wanted to. You don't owe him proof, I said. I know. But if you decide you want to face him, I'll be nearby. Not as a shield. As your person. Her eyes lifted to mine. My person? I swallowed. If that's too much. It's not. The rain began again, gentle and silver. Claire reached for my coat, pulled me close, and kissed me with enough tenderness to silence every jealous, frightened thing inside me. When she pulled back, her voice was barely above the rain. Come with me tomorrow, she said. Not to fight my past, to stand with me while I choose my future. I nodded, my forehead resting against hers. Always. And for the first time, the word didn't scare me. Graham chose a cafe with a front step. Of course he did. Claire saw it from the sidewalk and laughed once, without humor. I looked at the entrance, then at her. We can leave. No. Her eyes stayed on that single concrete step. We can change the venue. She called him. I heard only her side. Graham, the place you picked isn't accessible. No, it's not fine. Because I'm not having coffee on the sidewalk like a golden retriever. There's a cafe 2 blocks east with a ramp. I'll be there in 10 minutes. If you want closure, follow directions. She hung up. I tried not to smile. She caught me. What? Nothing. Nolan. I'm just attracted to competent hostility. That is very specific. So are my feelings. Her expression softened and the tension in her shoulders eased a little. She reached for my hand. You don't have to sit with me, she said. Nearby is enough. I know. I mean it. This isn't a test. I know that too. She squeezed my fingers. Good. Because I already like you. You don't need to audition. My heart did something ridiculous. At the second cafe, Graham was waiting outside when we arrived. He was handsome in the polished way Claire had described. Expensive coat, perfect hair, face arranged into regret. He looked at her first, then at me, and I saw the calculation flicker across his eyes. Not jealousy exactly, recognition that she had moved beyond the version of herself he'd abandoned. Claire, he said. Graham. His gaze dropped briefly to our joined hands. Claire didn't let go. Neither did I. Inside, she chose a table by the window. I sat at a small table across the room with terrible coffee and a clear view, close enough if she wanted me, far enough that this remained hers. They talked for 27 minutes. I didn't hear most of it. I watched her instead. Not because I thought she needed saving, because I loved watching her take up space. She didn't shrink. She didn't perform forgiveness. She didn't offer him the comfort of pretending he had done his best. Once, Graham leaned forward, face tight with apology, and Claire listened with a stillness sharper than anger. Then she spoke. He looked down. When she turned toward me, I stood. Not dramatically, not possessively, just ready. She came to me, eyes bright but dry. Done? I asked. Done. Graham appeared behind her. Nolan, right? I nodded. He extended a hand. Take care of her. Claire's face went cold. I didn't take his hand. She takes care of herself, I said. I'm just lucky she lets me come along. For a second, no one moved. Then Claire laughed softly. Not at him. Not at me. Like a door closing. Goodbye, Graham, she said. Outside, the afternoon sun had broken through the clouds, turning the wet pavement silver. Claire stopped at the curb and inhaled like she had set down something heavy. I crouched in front of her, right there on the sidewalk, not caring who saw. You okay? She touched my cheek. I am now. Do you want to talk about it? Later. Her thumb brushed my jaw. Right now I want fries, a milkshake, and for you to say something emotionally reckless. I smiled. I'm falling in love with you. Her hand stilled. Apparently that had been reckless enough. The city noise faded. Claire stared at me, lips parted, eyes suddenly wet. I didn't say it because of him, I said quickly. I didn't say it because you survived something. I'm saying it because you steal my fries and bully houseplants and make me want to be honest before I'm ready. A tear slipped down her cheek. I'm falling in love with you, I said again, quieter, and I don't need you to say it back today. She leaned forward, took my face in both hands, and kissed me, right there at the curb, with traffic moving around us and the light turning green. When she pulled away, she whispered, I'm already there, you idiot. I laughed, and she laughed too, and I kissed her again because some moments are too important to be tidy. 6 months later, Marcus gave the best apology toast I'd ever heard at our housewarming party. Our housewarming party. Claire and I had found a small brick townhouse with a ramped entrance, wide doorways, and a kitchen where I was still not allowed to sear chicken unsupervised. She paid half the deposit and informed me that if I ever called it my place, she would replace all my coffee with decaf. Ren helped negotiate the lease and threatened the landlord into fixing the bathroom grab bars before move-in. Ben arrived with a toolbox and left with a bandaged thumb. Dana brought curtains. Marcus brought wine and the humility of a man who had learned that matchmaking without consent was just meddling in formal wear. Claire forgave them slowly, properly, on her terms. I loved her for that too. By the following spring, we had built a life made of ordinary miracles. Sunday pancakes, her grant deadlines, my drainage emergencies, grocery lists, bad movies, good kisses in the hallway, arguments about thermostat settings. Her chair parked beside my muddy work boots, my hand reaching for hers in sleep. Love, I learned, was not a grand rescue. It was noticing when the ramp at our favorite Thai place was blocked and watching Claire roll inside anyway after making the owner move 3 crates and apologize. It was her sitting beside me at my mother's kitchen table helping Mom cut coupons while whispering, "Your family communicates entirely through discounts." It was the way she kissed me when I overthought things. It was the way she said, "Come back to me," when I got quiet. 1 year after that first ambush at Bellwether, I took Claire back there. Not to reclaim the place, to replace it. This time, no one watched from the bar. No secret tests. No friends hiding behind menus. Just us at a table by the window, rain tracing silver lines down the glass. Claire wore green again. I nearly forgot how to speak. "You're staring," she said, "at the woman I love." Her teasing smile softened. "Acceptable." After dinner, I took her hand across the table the same way I had that first night. "I thought I was being tricked into a blind date," I said. "Turns out I was being dragged toward the best thing that ever happened to me." "Dragged?" she asked. "I'm very smooth. Emotionally, I was dragged." "That sounds accurate." Outside, under the same awning, I kissed her in the rain. Not carefully this time, confidently, like a man who finally understood that love was not about finding someone easy. It was about choosing someone real and being chosen back. When we got home, Claire rolled ahead of me up the ramp, then stopped at the door and looked back. The porch light caught in her hair. Rain sparkled on her coat. Her smile was warm, wicked, and mine. "You coming, Storm Drain Man?" I looked at her, at the open door, at the life waiting inside. "Always," I said. And I meant every letter. What would you have done if your friends tricked you into a blind date just to test your reaction? Have you ever experienced something similar? Tell me your story in the comments. If you liked this one, leave a like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.